Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we meet Americans honoring and celebrating Black history. In Oklahoma, CBS Mornings co-host Nate Burleson and his wife traced their family businesses destroyed back in 1921 during the Tulsa Race Massacre. And in Texas, we explore an expansive collection of African-American art and history. But we begin in Florida at a shop that claims to offer refuge from the growing culture wars over books and race. Over 40% of all book bans occurred in Florida school districts. Christian Benavides visits a bookstore placing African-American culture at the forefront.
In Tampa's Black English bookstore, a celebration of African-American culture is also a refuge.
Every book is liberated. Set up here.
Gwendolyn Henderson is the store's owner.
When I walk into a space, I really need to see myself.
From cooking to nonfiction to
Mind your business, taking care of yourself.
Henderson, a public school teacher, has witnessed the growing culture wars over books and race. Current Florida law allows parents to challenge books over perceived indoctrination, race-based teachings, sexual content, or gender identity. PEN America, an advocacy group tracking educational censorship, found more school books were banned in Florida than any other state. Is this a response to that?
I'm a rebel, so I cannot deny that.
A complaint over indoctrination got Amanda Gorman's poem, The Hill We Climb, restricted to middle schoolers and up in one Miami-Dade public school.
We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it. I mean, people will destroy a place or a people rather than to be accepting of diversity.
According to PEN America, there have been over 1,400 cases of book bans across 33 school districts in Florida. Troy Johnson tracks Black-owned bookstores. Put into context for me what this bookstore signifies given what's been happening in Florida.
It's almost defiant. No Excuses is going to portray our stories and sell our books.
On the 1930 census, it has just a list of people, including my family members, and no one could read and no one could write. And that just was incredible to me.
Henderson, the only Black member of the Tampa City Council, wants others to learn their history, even if it's outside the classroom.
We turn now to the most famous doll in America. More than 40 years ago, Kitty Black Perkins designed the first Black Barbie. Elise Preston meets the woman behind the doll to reflect on her legacy.
A big curly fro, bold gold jewelry, and a bright red dress looks dynamite on this brown skin Barbie.
Everything that Barbie was, I wanted Black Barbie to be the opposite.
Kitty Black Perkins, now 76, designed Mattel's first Black Barbie, which debuted in 1980 after calls from doll collectors.
They were asking for more Black dolls.
In the 60s and 70s, the only diverse dolls in Barbie's world were sidekicks.
She's a little bit shapelier.
But this doll, made more in the image of Black women, would bear the marquee name.
I wanted her also to be able to do the same things that the white doll did, but just add a little bit more spice.
Just a dash.
Just a dash.
Perkins, Mattel's first Black designer, grew up in the Jim Crow South.
Did you have any Black dolls growing up?
I did not. And I would actually color the skin of the paper dolls.
Why?
Because I wanted them to look like me.
Kansas mom Sonia Larson collects Black Barbies.
People don't understand that being able to see yourself in a doll, it's everything.
Perkins retired from Mattel as chief Barbie designer. Today, Barbie is more inclusive than ever and taking over Hollywood. But for Perkins, Black Barbie was the mold to break the mold.
Coming up, our Nate Burleson shares his family's personal connection to one of America's darkest chapters. Stay with us. Welcome back. We now revisit the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Over 2 days, more than 30 blocks of Black-owned homes and businesses were destroyed, displacing families and resulting in the loss of millions of dollars in generational wealth. 3 of those businesses affected were owned by ancestors of Atoya Burleson, wife of CBS News' own Nate Burleson. The couple visited the scene of those historic crimes and shared how it still affects their family.
After a long 4-hour flight, we finally arrived in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City?
When we landed, we met up with my wife's cousin, Dwight.
I have not been back in years.
We are headed to our Marcia's house.
Our journey began at the home of Marcia McGee, Atoya's maternal aunt, who lived in Oklahoma City her entire life. Before heading into Tulsa, I sat down with the family.
Now, Dwight, you have been collecting information for a long time.
Yeah, it's a blessing that we're able to actually sit and talk about our family and the legacy.
Aunt Marcia, what do you know about your family's history as it relates to Black Wall Street?
What my brother had told me is that Grandpa Hezekiah was a millionaire.
Marcia's grandfather and Atoya's great-grandfather, Lafayette Wilson, was the proud owner of a hotel in Tulsa, and his father, Hezekiah Wilson, owned a real estate company, both examples of Black success lost in the massacre.
So Lafayette owned the Lafayette Hotel.
Yes.
And ownership is a tricky word when it comes to the African-American community.
Yeah.
Because we were once owned, told we couldn't own anything.
Yeah.
So what does the word ownership mean to you as it pertains to Lafayette?
I actually was intrigued because when you think about that they did that during a time when it was almost impossible, that to me is so inspirational because I have no excuses knowing that this is my lineage and what they did back then.
Right.
Right. Are there any curiosities as we head to Tulsa?
I think for me is actually seeing where the business was.
The next morning, we drove east to Tulsa in search of the place where Lafayette Hotel once stood.
I knew I wanted to be in the region.
We met up with author and historian Hannibal B. Johnson, who has dedicated nearly 30 years to researching the Tulsa Massacre.
Why do you believe that this story was brushed under America's rug for so long?
First, think about when this happened. It happened in 1921.
Okay.
Tulsa was on an upward trajectory to becoming the oil capital of the world. Tulsa was on its way.
Yeah.
And so the chamber types had an interest in minimizing what happened here. Another factor I think we should consider is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Black folks are traumatized. So they might have wondered, if we make a big deal out of this, could this recur? We also know that conservatively estimated the dollar damage from the destruction was roughly $1.5 to $2 million, which is in the tens of millions of dollars today.
So Hannibal, we provided you with 2 addresses, the Lafayette Hotel and also HT Real Estate. What did you find out about those locations?
The real estate business is listed on a registry of destroyed properties that was created by the Oklahoma Commission to study the Tulsa Race Riot of 1921.
Yeah. What about the Lafayette Hotel?
I didn't find that listed, which doesn't mean it didn't exist. It just means it wasn't listed.
We moved over to Greenwood Rising.
We got everything we want right here. We got our own business.
A history center located at the heart of Tulsa's Greenwood district.
Do we have an idea of where that address is?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, if the address is 604 East Archer, then it's right outside. I mean,
Archer
it's like
and
right
Greenwood,
outside.
right?
Yeah, it's Archer and
What do you
Greenwood.
mean, like right outside, right outside?
Right outside where we are, yeah.
Well, we have to go see this.
Well, let's go see it.
I want to stand right there.
But before we could head out, John Adams, the building's security guard, stopped us to ask what we were up to. To our surprise, he had something that might help us in our search for answers.
What is this?
That's the corner of Greenwood and Archer.
He told us that before this building was built, the foundation of a hotel was exposed on the corner of this very block.
And then they covered it up with what you see out there now.
Outside the museum, markers on the ground suggest where some businesses once stood. An initiative started in the early 2000s.
604 would have been somewhere between these two markers here.
But not every business is marked.
We might assume that Lafayette Wilson had his business, the Lafayette Hotel, right here.
Unbelievable.
If you were able to stand face to face with your great-grandfather, Lafayette, what would you say to him?
I would ask him, what did he have planned for us, for his future, for his grandchildren, for his children? I would ask him.
Yeah.
What did he have? What was he thinking? What was he passing on, to us, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Sorry, Auntie. It's okay.
It's all right. I'm just so proud of what he did.
After an emotional morning, we had one more stop to complete our trip. We walked over to the Black Wall Street Memorial, displaying all the businesses destroyed and their owners, to search for their grandfather's name.
You see anything?
Yep.
H.T. Wilson. There it is, right there.
H.T. Wilson.
Yep. And look,
It says no amount specified. And the amount is
unpaid financial aid.
What does that amount mean?
The claim, it's just a claim amount. In the insurance policies back then, almost all of them had exclusionary clauses, and they wouldn't pay if the damage was occasioned by riot or civil unrest. That was a specific clause in the insurance policies.
Wow.
So these black people didn't get paid.
There's H.T. Wilson Real Estate right there.
Real estate, okay. How about the barbershop? Is it
And there's Lafayette Hotel right there.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
You found the wall. Oh my gosh.
That's great. That's great.
H.T. Wilson
H.T. Wilson's Real Estate, and then right here is Wilson Barbershop. All three.
So inspirational.
It's pretty unbelievable to have all three of the businesses there. I'm happy for my wife because when she first discovered that her great-grandfather owned the Lafayette Hotel, I can tell that she was curious, but there were so many gaps in what she knew. This is the most rewarding part of my job. It's one thing to do a piece that people watch, but to do something for my wife and her family, it's pretty special.
Ahead, how one family's curiosity about their own heritage morphed into a vast art exhibit. This is Eye on America. We end with a showcase of the trials and triumphs of African American history through art. With more than 1,000 pieces, the Kinsey Collection is the largest private holding of African American art and artifacts. I recently caught up with the Kinseys, the couple behind the extensive collection, to learn more about their passion and purpose. Inside Houston's Holocaust Museum, America's fight against Nazi Germany is getting a second look.
Here we have African American troops liberating concentration camps. You never heard that before.
This history is being shared through the lens of a family hoping to right the record.
The myth of absence is operating at so many levels in the Kinsey Collection, and we believe when you come through here, you see a different side of this whole story.
For husband and wife Bernard and Shirley Kinsey,
these paintings hanging on the wall are some of my favorites because...
and their son Khalil, the whole story covers far more than World War II.
This is a marriage record for a young girl named Estabana, known as the earliest known black baptismal record in American history.
Documents from the 1590s of free black people who settled with the Spanish in St. Augustine, Florida. How do you know they're black?
It actually states that in the transcription.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And other artifacts and artistry, sculptures, paintings, murals. These are doors. Where are they from?
From the Cape Coast Castle in Ghana, 4.5 million people went through these doors.
giving context to an era many have tried to forget.
One of the most profitable businesses in the history of the world was taking people. I mean, in 1850, people were more valuable than land. Land in Florida was 2 cents an acre and a person was $500. So do the math.
And greater understanding for our common connection. We are in the Holocaust Museum. I think some people might wonder, what is the connect?
Mm-hmm. We view American slavery as a Holocaust as well, one that was studied by Adolf Hitler. There is no disconnect if we look at this from a holistic human perspective. And by that, we should and deserve to know more about each other's stories.
What is the myth of absence?
That Black people, number one, were here at every stage and we participated in everything. That we weren't simply toiling in fields, we were resisting at every stage.
Resistance during the Civil Rights Movement is how Bernard Kinsey and Shirley Pooler met at Florida A&M University.
Well, you see this cute 17-year-old getting out of jail, and it took a lot of courage to go down in Tallahassee in 1963. People were getting killed. And I just thought that combination was pretty remarkable. So I wanted to meet him.
After graduation, they got married, and Bernard became one of America's first Black park rangers.
So we began to collect souvenirs at first.
Actually, it was Native American stuff first, because our first travel was from Los Angeles to the Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon.
I had never been there, so our first collecting really was, I've got Kachina dolls, I've got rugs, I've got sand, I've got all kind of stuff from these national parks.
But once he became a big corporate executive at Xerox, their collection grew more nuanced.
Ernie Barnes was one of the first pieces that we bought, because his work always inspired us growing up in the South.
So what room is this?
Well, this is where we keep all the good stuff.
Inside their home, their own ancestry speaks volumes.
This is my dad, who I just adore.
Bernard's father was an educational changemaker in Florida. Shirley's grandmother, a silent protester through her sewing machine.
Well, because when I was growing up, Mama said, we don't go to the store if you can't try on clothes. I'll make your clothes, and that's what she did.
People began entrusting them with their family's possessions.
This gentleman called him up and said he'd found this in his aunt's attic, and nobody had been up there since the 50s or whatever, and wanted to send it to him. And Bernard, I can remember you stood there opening at the door, and he was literally shaking.
A bill of sale of a human being from 1832.
I couldn't believe that somebody could own somebody. Now, it's abstract when you read about it. It is different when you're holding this guy in your hand.
That was a turning point when casual collectors became intentional curators. Another push came through an assignment for their son in elementary school.
And he came home saying, well, Mom, James can go all the way back to the Mayflower, and Jimmy can go all the way back to Paris. And we could say only we could go to Florida, because we didn't know anything else beyond that. I decided then that all of his reports were going to be about somebody Black who did something to help America become America.
From authors and thinkers like Phyllis Wheatley and Frederick Douglass, to the man who ensured Washington, D.C. was built to spec, Benjamin Banneker. For nearly 20 years, the Kinseys have taken this show on the road, from Hong Kong to Disney's Epcot Center to the Smithsonian, and even a Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium.
That's Shirley, that's Khalil reading Khalil Gibran, and that's me. And I love this because he's got us looking toward the future.
Everywhere the Kinsey Collection goes, it relays writings, inventions, and presence in all spaces linking past with present.
This is Dr. Selma Burke. She actually crafted the relief, sat with President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and the dime that we all still use today was created by this woman.
Really?
And nobody knows about it.
The Kinseys are effectively changing that and encourage others to follow their path.
This is a Pullman porter on the American Railroad system.
My great-grandfather was a Pullman porter.
Wow. That's the thing. That's the thing. This history is in all of our homes, in all of our lives. And what we're trying to do is illuminate this in so many ways, but also encourage others to do the same. Because it really is the fabric of our lives.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.